The character that I chose was Amir from The Kite Runner. So for my character board, I will be talking about Amir's personal traits, his flaws, insecurities, desires, obstacles in his way, and then motivations. Looking at his personality traits, Amir shows that he is very privileged, he's selfish, he's a coward, he does have a growth mindset, he's intellectual, and but he is also insecure. So the first trait we're going to look more in depth at is privilege. So in the text it says, in the end, I was a Pashtun and he was a Khazar. I was a Sunni and he was a Shai. And nothing's ever going to change that. Nothing. So it really just shows that Amir recognizes that he has more privilege. And it also shows in himself that he doesn't want that to change. He states nothing is going to change from this. He recognizes he has that higher class, he has more wealth, and though when he says nothing, he also is meaning that he's not going to try to change it whatsoever. The second personality trait that we're going to look at is selfishness. So Hazan shows he's really selfish several times throughout the book, even stating, maybe Hassan was the price I had to pay, the lamb I had to slay to win Baba. All Hazan or Amir really wants is Baba. He wants Baba's recognition throughout the book, and he doesn't want others to have that spotlight. And this text clearly shows that he's willing to sacrifice a friendship and allow Hazan to get injured just so he can have what he wants. Up next for personality traits, we have a coward. So this one's more self-explanatory. So when Hazan was getting attacked, Amir ran, and he recognizes it too by stating, in the end, I ran. So Amir doesn't want that confrontation. He's willing to let his friend get injured just so he can hide, which shows he is a coward. For growth mindset, we see that Amir states that my body was broken, but I felt healed. So when Amir is stating this, he's recognizing that, though in that instance from Asef, his body was injured, but because of him standing up to Asef, he was starting to heal. He understood what he was doing wrong and how he was learning from that and becoming a better person from it, allowing him to have that growth mindset. So for this personality trait of intellectual, really this just means that Hassan really does have smartness in him. And you can see this when he states, Hassan absently plucked blades of grass from the ground as I read him stories he couldn't read for himself. And really this quote just shows that even though there may be smarter people, Amir definitely has a higher capability of understanding concepts and reading, especially when it comes to writing in general. You'll see that he writes several stories, especially small ones. He creates them off the top of his head a lot of times too, and even goes as far as publishing his own novel. So Amir is insecure. We don't see it a lot, but we do see it pop up at different points where especially saying, I write fiction, I said, thinking of a dozen or so short stories I've written in the leather-bound notebook Rahim Ka had given me, wondering why I was suddenly embarrassed by them in this man's presence. And this is showing that Amir can have all this confidence he wants, but at the end of the day, when it comes to stuff he means, he doesn't want to be judged by it, and that shows insecurity. He doesn't want people to say it's bad or good, and you can see that too when Amir wants Baba to read a story and he doesn't. You can see it there as well. So for Amir's flaws, we see he has quite a few of them, and one of them being selfishness. And we see this throughout the whole book that he tries to get Baba's attention all the time. He always just wants to be the main focus. And one part that you can really see it is when Amir says, I lifted Hazan's mattress and planted my new watch. And you can see this because Amir wanted Hazan to go on. He didn't want to face his own burdens that he caused himself, that guilt that by leaving Hazan in that alley. And so he deliberately planted his own watch under Hazan's mattress to try to get him in trouble. And you can also see that Amir is selfish, but also jealous by saying things like, I wished I too had some kind of scar that would beget Baba's sympathy. It wasn't fair. Hazan hadn't done anything to earn Baba's affection. He'd just been born with a stupid hair lip. And really, with this too, it's like, this too, it's not just that Amir was selfish in this moment, that Baba gave Hazan affection, which at the time Amir thought was because of Hazan having the hair lip, but really he didn't like anybody having any affection towards Baba, or Baba having any affection towards anybody else. He just wanted Baba to have his attention, showing that jealousy that he has. Another flaw that he has is he stayed silent. We saw that when he said, I envied her, her secret was out, spoken, dealt with. This is, Amir stayed silent, didn't even want to tell his wife what had happened in the past, as well as he stayed silent when Asef harmed Hazan. And so that is a flaw that Amir has, is that he stays silent, he doesn't speak up, he doesn't express his guilt that he has, he doesn't help to save others at the beginning, which we do see change over time, and obviously Amir does speak out against Asef and eventually gets Sobra back. So another two flaws that we see is one, cowardness, which we just saw with Amir, and being silent, is he's also a coward. He didn't want to speak up to his wife and tell her what happened, but also he ran at the end saying, I had one last chance to make a decision, but in the end I ran. He recognized he was scared, and he backed away when he should have stepped up and said something, but he didn't. And finally, for flaws, the desperation for attention. And you see this when he says, and that right there was the single greatest moment of my 12 years of life, seeing Baba on that roof proud of me at last. All he really wants in life is for Baba to see him, and that really does blind him a lot, because he will go as far as letting others be harmed just so he can get Baba's attention. He knew that there was a risk that if he tried to help Hazan, he might lose that blue kite, and that's what he wanted his Baba to see, his father to see. And so Amir is so desperate that he's blind in different aspects of his life and in his friendships. He's willing to lose it all just for the attention of Baba. For Amir's insecurities, the big ones you see is social judgment, and one even saying he was just a Hazar, wasn't he? And Amir stating this, showing that he's not going to be offended as much by what Hazan does or what he does to Hazan, trying to relieve his guilt, because Hazan's a different class. He's a Hazar, and that really gets into Amir's head. You can even see that with when he doesn't play with Hazan during public times. He only plays with Hazan when no one else is around, and you can see that there as well. The other big insecurity is Baba's approval. He's very insecure that Baba won't approve. And you can see this when he says, I always felt like Baba hated me a little. And why not? After all, I killed his beloved wife, his beautiful princess, hadn't I? And you can see this where Amir, yes, he wants Baba's approval, but he's also so insecure about Baba's approval, because all he wants is it to be positive, and he knows in his head that it's not. And so he has a big insecurity about it, and it really does hold up his life a lot and in his growth in this world, because it blinds him to a lot of different things. So for Amir's desires, if you look at the picture on the side, it says, I am who I am. Your approval is not needed. And really, that's the exact opposite of what Amir wants. Amir wants Baba to see him. You can see this when he said, I watched him fill his glass at the bar and wonder how much time would pass before he talked again, the way we just had. Because the truth of it was, I always felt like Baba hated me a little. And why not? After all, I killed his beloved wife, his beautiful princess, hadn't I? The least I could have done was to have the decency to have turned out a little more like him, but I hadn't turned out like him. Not at all. And he recognizes that Baba and Amir have that strain on each other, and they don't have the best connection ever. And Amir just wants to be seen by Baba, and for Baba to be happy of him. And we really see that with the Kite Runner tournament and how much joy he gets from Baba being proud of him. Another desire that Amir has is Amir wants to be redeemed of what he did as Hazan. And you can see this when it says come, There's a way to be good again, Rahim Ka had said on the phone just before hanging up. And really, when that was told to him, to be saying, there's a way to be good again, that really did get to Amir. It's what gave him that final push to go get Sabra and bring him back to the America. You can see that he has so much guilt for what he did to Hazan by leaving him in the alley, that being able to redeem himself is really what he truly wanted. For obstacles in Amir's way, Amir's biggest challenge that he needs to go through in this whole book is growth, whether it's mainly his personal growth and being able to become a better person. And some of the things that conflict with this one is family dynamics. He says, Baba and I lived in the same house, but in different spheres of existence. And you can see that there was conflict there, but Amir always did want Baba's affection, and he never got that. And that kind of blindsided him to different things like friendship and loyalty, because his only loyalty was to Baba, which was getting that blue kite back to the house. Another one was personal loss. So we see, looking back now, I realized I'd been peeked into the alley for at last 26 years. And so what Amir's saying here is that in the alley 26 years ago, when he ran, he lost his friendship right there. Hazan was his best friend, but he was just blind to seeing it at the time. And that really does cause a struggle, because that's where Amir kind of gets held up, and he just lives in this guilt for so many years. And you can also see with personal loss, with his mom passing, he always felt like, because he technically, in Amir's eyes, killed his mom by being born, that's where his relationship with Baba got affected in the first place. And coming out, Amir acted more like his mother than Baba, and that's what Amir believes Baba doesn't want. And so that loss of his mother really does affect the family dynamic as well. So for guilt and regret, I mean, we see this throughout the whole book and with the personal loss and family dynamic, but he says, I had one last chance to make a decision, and I ran. And in the end, I ran. And Amir lives with this guilt for so long. He tries to push it down, and you can see a point where Amir's like, you can try to hide the guilt and your feelings, but they're just going to crawl their way back up. And that's what's so hard, is Amir struggles by pushing everything down, and that blocks him from growing, because he can't get over something and overcome challenges if you just hide them all. So we see that for identity and self-discovery, Amir has to figure out who he is as a person, and he has to discover that for himself. People can't just tell him what to do. And you can see that he's starting to understand this by saying, there's only what you do and what you don't do, I said. And Amir's now realizing that our actions and our past actions, they all affect us now, and that really is a big growth point for him, because if he doesn't recognize what his actions do or don't do and the effects they have, then you can't really grow from them. Motivations that Amir does have help him to overcome those challenges. And really, redemption and guilt go hand in hand, but Amir does say that I had one last chance to make a final decision, one final opportunity to decide who I wanted to be. And he also said, I saw the blue kite, all I smelled was victory, salvation, and redemption. And really, you can see that Amir pushed himself to really have redemption and change the past and not make the same mistakes twice, especially when he said, I had one last chance to make a decision, one final opportunity to decide who I was going to be. And right there, you can see that he understands that if he makes the wrong decisions, as in the past, then he's going to go backwards. He's not going to grow and be better. And he's recognizing that and trying to redeem himself to be better. Especially, he also says that in the all I saw was the blue kite, all I smelled was the victory, salvation, redemption. He says the word redemption right there in the sentence, showing that he wants that redemption, and that's a big motivation for him. And he wants his dad to be proud of him. And that tournament really did change a lot of things in the family dynamic that way. Looking at guilt, when he says, I had one last chance to make a decision, and in the end I ran. We can see that, we've talked about this quote, and we can see that Amir has so much guilt that in the end he ran. And it's so important to look at it, because in the end I ran was in its own line in the text, showing that how much impact that decision made on him and how much that's going to hold against his life. And with the next quote, you can also see it. It's about the same situation that says, looking back now, I realized I had been peeking into that alley for the last 26 years. Amir didn't let that go. He held on to that guilt for so long, and he just wanted to be redeemed of that guilt by the end. He wanted something to change to make him happy. And so that really helped him also push through his challenges that he had. And finally, his just personal growth. In the text, he says, I wondered if that was how forgiveness budded, not with the fanfare of the infamy, but with pain gathering its thinking, packing up, and slipping away unannounced in the middle of the night. And this quote shows that Amir did grow, and he is so happy about it. And that growth, Amir needed that growth to be able to be happy in this world. And I think Amir recognized this as he was going to Pakistan and everything, that something had to change. There had to be a way to be good again, and that's what Amir wanted, was to be good again. And that requires personal growth. And so by the end, showing and thinking about how forgiveness works and everything within this sentence really shows that he's trying to grow and be better. That is the end of me talking about Amir and his character, and this is my works cited.